Hi! In this video, I'm going to briefly talk about DID, OSDD, and the theory of structural dissociation. So whether you have a dissociative disorder, know someone with a dissociative disorder, or just want to learn more about dissociative disorders, welcome! I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's Maddie, and here on this channel we make videos about LGBT issues and mental health. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, consider subscribing. So in my last video I mentioned that I've been diagnosed with OSDD 1B, and that's something I want to talk about a lot more on this channel. Not only is it something that impacts me on a daily basis, but I realized a little bit ago that this channel really is all about paying it forward. Were it not for trans and non-binary YouTubers, I might not have figured out that I was trans, and were it not for DID and OSDD YouTubers, I definitely would have never figured out that we had OSDD. So with this theme of paying it forward in mind, I knew shortly after I was diagnosed with OSDD that I wanted to make videos where I talked about my experiences living with OSDD in the hopes that I might be able to help another system figure themselves out. That being said, I figured the best place to start would be to talk about what OSDD is, go over some key terms that are important to know when discussing DID and OSDD, and also talk about some changes to the channel in light of our diagnosis. Before we get into the video though, I want to add one quick disclaimer, which is that I found out that we have OSDD on the 26th of May this year, so not quite 3 months ago, and I think it would be silly to claim that 3 months of knowing about a diagnosis and a psychology minor make me an expert on dissociative disorders. That being said, since I first suspected that I might be part of a system, I've been doing quite a bit of research, so I wanted to share what I've learned as best as I can. So what exactly is OSDD? First, let's start with the acronyms themselves. DID stands for Dissociative Identity Disorder, and OSDD stands for Otherwise Specified Dissociative Disorder. And in order to understand DID or OSDD, it's first important to know a little bit about the Theory of Structural Dissociation, which is the leading theory on how DID and OSDD form. According to this theory, we are not born with a singular unified sense of identity. Rather, we are born with a bunch of different ego states, each with their own function and outlook. So we might have an ego state whose focus revolves around food, an ego state whose focus revolves around making connections with people, an ego state whose focus revolves around exploring new environments, and so on. For most people, these ego states will eventually integrate into one singular unified personality, and they'll live the rest of their lives as a singlet, which is a term used in the DID-OSDD community to refer to people who don't have DID or OSDD, people who have a singular personality, a singular identity. I'm sure by now you've guessed, if you didn't know before, that people with DID and OSDD don't have a singular identity or a singular personality. Rather, they're plural or multiple, more than one identity within one body. So how does this happen? Well, as I mentioned earlier, most people's ego states integrate between the ages of 6 to 9, but this process can be interrupted if a child experiences prolonged trauma before that point in time. This can be anything from child abuse, to war, to hospitalization, to loss, and there's no objective metric by which we can measure which traumas are bad enough or severe enough to cause a trauma response. The bottom line is that some children who go through traumatic events in early childhood can experience an interruption in the integration of their ego states. These ego states then continue to develop. They develop their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own personalities, and the end result is multiple identities residing within the same body. These identities are referred to using many different terms such as parts, personalities, and headmates, but the most common term used to describe them is alters, which is short for alternate states of consciousness. The most common term for a group of alters is a system, and most systems will have a system name to refer to their collective identity. For example, I am the co-host of the Sanctuary system, and we are a system of 24 alters and counting. So the word system refers to all of the alters residing in one body, and the system can have just 2 alters or thousands of alters. Every system is different because every system experiences different trauma and experiences trauma differently. In order to be diagnosed with DID, you have to meet 5 criteria. You have to have 2 or more distinct personality states. You must have amnesia between those personality states that can't be explained by ordinary forgetfulness. The symptoms must significantly impact your daily life. The symptoms can't be attributed to any cultural or religious practice. And the symptoms can't be caused by drugs, alcohol, or another mental health condition. OSDD 1A, however, is when you meet criteria 2 through 5, but not criterion 1. In other words, you have full amnesia between alters, but your alters are less differentiated from one another. And the most common example of this is when all of your alters are the same person but at different ages. And OSDD 1B is when you meet criterion 1 and criteria 3 through 5, but not criterion 2. To put it another way, OSDD 1B is when a system has distinct alters, but there's little to no amnesia between them. And that, in a nutshell, is what's going on with us. We're a recently diagnosed OSDD 1B system of 24 alters and counting, just trying to navigate life with the new knowledge that we are multiple. So what does that mean for this channel? Well, for one, we're still considering a name change. I mentioned a couple videos ago that I was thinking about just using my name for the channel, and that's obviously not going to work anymore. So now we're debating between using our current name, which is Epically Curious, and using our system name, which is the Sanctuary System. Right now, I think we're leaning towards keeping the channel name the same, but I'm curious to know what you think, so let us know in the comments below. As for content, we're going to continue to make videos on LGBT issues. Most of us in the system are queer, so the queer content is definitely going to continue. But moving forward, we're also going to be doing introduction videos so you can meet everyone who wants to be on camera. We're going to be making videos about our experiences as a system, and we're also going to do our best to contribute to the conversations that are happening in the DID OSDD community. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned something from it, make sure you leave a like. And if you have any thoughts or questions, make sure you leave them down in the comments below. Remember that you're wonderful, and that the world is a better place because you're in it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!